we're going to continue learning more about the Birmingham market, and this is going to be 35204. You see that this zip code kind of spreads a little bit over these couple highways. So just remember, if you're ever comping properties, right, you always want to make sure that you're understanding all these little neighborhoods, and especially if there's a big interstate highway or this big crossway. I don't know if that's a railroad track or something, but if you go across that, that's a huge difference in neighborhoods. So again, this is a very street by street market. So highly advise you all taking a closer look. So today we're just going to look at this property on the market, 940 5th Place West. It got a new dishwasher. It looks like it's relatively turnkey. They painted the outside. They got a little bit of carpet in the living room. I don't love the carpet in the living room. I would personally get rid of it. And one more, two more. Never know what they're hiding. The bathroom look fine. So maybe I would say I'll replace the flooring on just about a third of the square footage. So that'd be about roughly 500 square feet. Okay. At 114,900, let's go and plug some numbers in. So we have this property. Let's do a quick street view, see if we notice anything. Up on the hill. Any red flags that you see right away? Sometimes you still got to know the neighbor. You still got to go because you never know how old these messages are or these images are. Let's see. It looks okay, I think. Just not looking for anything. But if you look at a crime score here, I went ahead to tophap.com, tophap.com, and you're going to see the crime score for this area is 179. I think this is probably the highest crime score I've seen on TopHap. I've seen 160s, but I've never seen a 179. So you got to be really, really careful in the zip code, all right? I have no idea. Because you see the zip code, right, it kind of spans a huge area from downtown to the highways to across. So this zip code can be very convoluted in terms of numbers. There might be one area that's really, really bad. So just be really careful about it. Excuse the noise in the background. We're cooking dinner. So, hey, we're staying consistent, right? No matter what. So, and then we have 114,900 renovations. Let's go ahead and update this property for renovations. So I usually set aside about $1,500 for the roof, just in case there's any issues. $500 to clean the landscaping, just in case there's any delays, and we just got to upkeep the exterior. We don't need to paint the place because it does look pretty much all set. I might just replace the carpet with about 500 square feet, roughly, just estimating $8 a square foot for flooring. That's probably right around $4,000 at $8 a square foot. If that is the price, you probably get a more accurate bid from somebody. I'm gonna zero out some of these appliances because that's already in there. I'm not going to mess with toilets because that's already new. And that results in roughly around, okay, if I do all that work, this rehab should definitely not be more than 10 grand. Okay. That's probably really an aggressive rehab already, but good to have that in place. Now, for the rent for this property, the first thing you can do is Google HUD FMR. If you Google HUD FMR, go to the first page, you're going to get the smart area FMR, which is typically the rent ceiling. And usually that includes utilities too at the same time. So you got to be very careful about it. This is in Jefferson County. And for 35204, you will see that the rent ceiling for a 3-bedroom is $1,240 and a 4-bed is $1,350. So not much left to turning into a 4-bedroom. $1,240 versus $1,350. Okay. And now this is going to be 30206. It's a 3-bed and 30206 as a 4-bed. Just note all these numbers down because my partners, they understand how I invest. So very, very important for them to at least see what the numbers are. I'm not going to get the 4-bedroom property because I didn't see much left, but I am going to get the market rents now for a 3-bedroom. And I'm going to do that by going to affordablehousing.com, going to the owner section, going to the market rents area, plug in the address, plug in the bedroom count, click get estimate. And in here, you're going to see the most important number. The most important number here is this number on the far right, on the bottom. It says right here that 25 units within a 1.23 mile radius, the average rent is $1,095. Okay, 1095. So you might underwrite this property with roughly $1,100 in rent to be conservative. You could go $1,150 maybe, but I wouldn't go that much higher, right? And that's because of the rent reasonableness test. And for those of you that do not know the rent reasonableness test, the rent reasonableness test essentially states that you cannot charge more for rents to when you compare it to an unassisted unit, which means you can't charge more rent simply because they are a voucher holder. So that's something that you want to be really, really careful about. And if I can get the rent reasonableness, let's see, rent reasonableness test. Last time I saw on Decatur County, I believe they had a really good one. Rent reasonableness test. Boom. HUD requires housing authorities to take into consideration location, size, type of unit, quality of image, amenities offered, housing service provided, maintenance provided, utility supply for owner to determine if the requested rent is reasonable, right? You have to make sure that this language truly complies. And every housing authority might be a little bit different when they look for comps. But if you think about it, location, size, type of unit, that's all going to apply, right? Single family homes versus single family homes. Renting a condo versus not a condo, it's going to be very different. So let's go ahead and go back to our property. So now that we've got this $1,095 number, we've got a few numbers, right? We're going to get the rent. The rent is going to be 11. I'll even do 1150. So we're going to be a little bit more optimistic, but definitely not 1240, right? Because that's a rent ceiling. And that you're definitely not getting that when the average rent is about $150 lower. Now, property taxes. For now, you can simply get that from this number right here in Redfin. I just take it right from there, 136. I don't try to overthink it. They have an insurance estimate for $89. So typically, I take the number and I multiply by 1.2 for a 20% premium. Typically, you see that the insurance premiums for a investment property is a little bit more than a primary residence property. When it sets aside 10% of our rent every single month for maintenance, it could be landscaping, it could be preventative maintenance, it could be literally you putting aside money until that roof collapses again in 10, 15, 20, 25 years, whatever that might be, right? Because something always breaks. It could be the AC, it could be the roof. So this money, the best way to think about it is that it does not belong to you. Whenever we see a lot of people advertising deals on Facebook, etc., they will always say cash flow positive when they simply take the rent and they subtract it by the PITI, the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. But they always leave out the maintenance, they always leave out the property management, and they always leave out the vacancy, right? Somebody always moves out of your property, right? Eventually. So it's unreasonable to think that your vacancy is going to be 0%. Similarly, for property management, yeah, you could manage your own property, but why did we all get into this business of real estate? For passive income, for financial freedom, your choice to do whatever you want. And you can't do that if you are managing the properties and you are on your phone all the time while on vacation, just in case someone has a leaky toilet. So this money doesn't belong to you. And if you don't underwrite with this property management in place, then you have essentially bought yourself a job, not an investment. Something for you guys to all consider. Okay. Now that I got all my expenses, I'm going to plug in my down payment. So right now, I'm assuming this is a 25% down payment on this property. And my loan amount is going to equal to my principal. My principal is going to equal to my selling price minus the down payment. And that's the amount I'm financing, $86,000. Right now, I think I've seen rates at 8.25 for a 75% LTV DSCR loan product. So 8.25 is probably right around there. And I can put this date back to 4/15 to kind of keep things consistent. I got 2.5% for closing costs. I got $10,000 for my renovations. And on this property, if I do rent it out as a 3-bedroom with $11.50 in rent, I would be cash flowing negative $28 right now. So roughly 0.8% return. Okay, 0.8. Now, what I want to go through the exercise with all of you is typically there's always a number that will make something a deal, right? So this is assuming a $115 or $10,000 rehab, okay? Let's say we grossly overestimated how much money we needed. So let's just divide this by 2. Let's say our rehab estimate is half. We only needed $5,000 to get it ready, right? Unlikely, but hey, let's put that aside. And if we put that down to $5,000, now what am I willing to pay for the property if I want a 10% cash and cash return on my money? I'm going to play around the asking price, and you pay attention to what happens to this cash and cash return number. As I lower this to, let's say, $100,000, This is now a 2% return on my money. If I lower this to $90,000, this is now 4.5. If I lower this to $80,000, this is now 7.5. If I lower this to 70 grand, this is now an 11.1. So let's say you want a 10% return. Whoops, one too many zeros. Okay, at $72,500, assuming everything else stays constant with a $5,100 rehab, I would be cash flowing 10%, $1,150, and my cash flow per month is $211, and that's a 10.1% cash and cash return. Now, why did I go through this exercise with all of you? Well, if you have your own criteria, and again, this is not investment advice, I'm not soliciting any investments on this call. I'm simply trying to show you that for every single deal, there is a price or a set of terms that will make it a deal. And depending on whatever your investment criteria is, whether that's cash and cash return, whether that's appreciation, some folks might say, hey, I'm okay with a negative $28 cash flow a month. If I'm in a state such as California, that might be appreciating a lot. Or maybe I'm in a state like Florida where it has gone up significantly. Maybe there's a slowdown now. But this is the type of thought process that you would want to go through whenever you're looking at a deal so that you can internalize, really understand why is this a deal for you? Not for anybody else, but for you. So if you go out there and all of a sudden you say, hey, I'm buying this property for 72 grand, but all of a sudden they found that the carpet was hiding something really bad or really moldy. So instead of my rehab being half, what if my rehab doubled? And now my rehab is $20,000. Well, now all of a sudden you can't pay $72,000, $72.5K for this property. You might be only be willing to pay, let's see, 55, 58, 57, 500. There you go, close enough. You might only be willing to pay 57,500 if the rehab is $20,000, and that creates a 9.8% cash and cash return. So this is where I like for you to understand, like, hey, if you do lock this up and you have an inspection contingency, as an example, how might you react to the deal, right? You might have went under contract at 72,500, but then all of a sudden you had somebody to walk the property, gave you an updated quote and said, hey, everything's going to cost 20 grand. So now you're only willing to pay 57,500. So this is how you are able to determine how do you react without emotion and stick to the numbers so you truly understand what will make this or constitute this a deal for yourself. Okay? All right. Hopefully this was fun for everybody. Hey, I'm getting ready to eat dinner with my family, but the whole point of this was to stay consistent. And thank you very much for tuning in today's live. And this is what this is all about. I hope you guys are able to copy my homework today. Analyze the same deal. Again, it's right on MLS. You just pick and choose and you understand your zip codes, by bedroom count, by bathroom count, square footage, etc. And you want to make sure you're being really careful within these neighborhoods and make sure you have a great team in place. If you haven't seen the podcast I did with Rhett Wiseman, highly recommend that. That's right on youtube.com/@Kent_HE. And I believe you will learn a lot. This is why we do this, so we can lift each other up, do the work together, and stay consistent together. I'm on day 198. Just remember, consistency is the hardest part of all of this. If you can consistently look at a deal every single day, 18 minutes a day is all you need. And all of a sudden, you would be better at analyzing deals than 95% of America. So stay at it, guys. All right. Have an amazing day, everybody. I'll be back here again tomorrow for day 199.